Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 5 of Proper Modulation with your hosts, Kurimanju,
Hey
hey
now.
now,
Oh.
and a man whose wingspan is said to outmatch that of the mighty Condor, Cheapy
I cannot be
D.
contained in this frame, as you can see.
He cannot be contained.
It's
He's
like
almost reaching his god form. This is a Super Saiyan number 3.
it's 8 feet about, I would say.
8 feet.
It's about an 8 foot wingspan. Hello, Kurimanju. How you doing?
I'm doing great, my friend. Good afternoon. How are you?
You need to explain your technological situation currently. So the people
All
who are
right, yeah.
watching, they might notice some black bars on the side of your image and they don't know what's going and inferior audio quality.
Inferior audio quality. I apologize for those watching this on the YouTubes and the Twitches. My internet is down, and thank you, Rona. I can't get any technician here until Monday. Can you believe that? It happened
Yes.
yesterday, like right at close of business, and then they tell me reset your the white box that connects to the internet outside. You hit the reset button. Okay, sir, we're gonna need a tech come over. When can you have one? I'm like, well, now. He's like, oh, how about Monday? I'm like, when did I move to, like, I don't know, Connecticut or Kentucky? I'm in a city. There's like a guy around the block all the time in a city from the whatever company, Internet, Verizon, Sprint, whatever.
Right.
So that's my latest gripe. But we had a great show this week. That helps me get through the hard times. We got some fun stuff to talk about, some idiocy.
What are you
How
going to
was
do
your
this
week?
weekend with no internet? That's what I want to know. If I had no internet for the weekend, I mean, all of our shit is like watching Netflix, all streaming services. We
Right.
got nothing without the internet.
I know. Well, the good news is just because of my business, I'm on the phone too much, so I have unlimited. So we're good with that. We got that
Okay.
technology. I can video stream until my heart's content. And you know me, bro, I like to do my Tai Chi and Kung Fu. So I will be doing that and a lot of pizza making. If you want to see any of that, you can find me online at, I am Kurimanju
You
and
don't
see some
sound
lovely pizza pic.
you don't sound defeated actually.
No, man, you cannot defeat the Kurimanju. And I mean, like, I'm a force. Like, I mean, really, who am I? I mean, like, there's I am Kurimanju, the social media. There's I am Kurimanju, the guy. There's I am Kurimanju in the mirror talking to himself like it makes sense to anybody else except for himself.
What's your wife
Who
doing when
am I?
that Kurimanju comes out?
Watch how they need, as they used to say on Folk Flex. You ever listen to Folk Flex, like Hot
Of course,
97 at night
yes.
with the bombs dropping? Drop a bomb on the flex. They're gonna need 2 Suburbans and a hearse because Curdy Manju's killing them out there.
Is that what you're doing in the mirror? And your wife walks
I've been
by?
flexing, and saying, "Would you fuck me?" I would fuck me.
You have the tuck? You have the full tuck going on when you do that?
I cannot talk. I don't
Good
want
for
to get
you.
too
Good for
graphic.
you. Good for you.
Well, no, it's a microphallus thing. It doesn't reach.
Can you
It's weird.
reverse
I know.
tuck? Can you
Yes,
Eric? Can you high pitch Eric tuck? That's his problem.
Who's high pitch?
You need to pull it out. It's
Oh,
inverted. I said it's an inverted.
We lost so many people. You go gross like immediately. You give no trigger warning. You go to the high pitched genitalia, and I'm already vomiting. I mean, I'm grossed out already. I mean, and obviously you stand for high pitch. Have you noticed? I don't know if anybody listening out there has noticed, and if you have a count, please put it in the comments. Cheapy always references high pitch, like every single episode.
He's
You
the
are
best.
fascinated with this man.
He's one of my favorite. He's one of my favorite whack packers for sure. Definitely top 5 whack packer of all time, no question.
Top 5. Okay.
It's just really where is he in the top 5? By the
So
way, the
well,
next off week that we have when Stern is off, we should definitely rank our personal whack packers, personal all
absolutely.
time best whack packers, and
As
we
a
have
matter
to
of
make
fact,
our case to each other about who's the best.
Yeah. And I think that's something we should open up to people. If when we find out that they're not going to be on, we should open it up like on the
Take a
Reddit or
poll,
something.
some polls.
Yeah. Well, so here's a weird question that, well, you tell me when you want to get into the outline because I'm interested in this high pitch thing. Ever since you told me about Cameo and high pitch a few years ago, it's always been something on my mind. Like I've always been curious as to like why are you so fascinated with him? And go ahead.
He's unique in a few different ways. First of all, he started off like as a normal person. I think we talked about that last week. Like he seemed to have like a normal intellect.
Super fan, normal super fan, yeah.
But he wasn't like a genius or anything. But it seemed like he could construct sentences and things of that nature. Now it's like he can barely understand things. He
Right.
Before Cameo, he was basically living in squalor because he couldn't really function as a person. He was broke. I think he ate too much crap, and
Right.
he killed his brain cells. Like some people kill their brain cells smoking crack or too much weed. He, I think, just like donuts and pizza, just too much. Like
Right.
it can break you down, I guess. I mean, if you triple your weight, your body
Right.
weight in like over like maybe 5 to 10 years, it probably isn't good for your brain. I'm not a scientist or anything. I'm just thinking. By the
No, you're
way,
right. It is bad for your brain. It is in a real way.
it is bad. By the way, did you not notice the shirt that I'm wearing right now?
Some cheapy kitty action.
No, no. Do you know what it is?
Show me a kitty. Show me a kitty.
Do you know what it is? You don't even know what it is. I thought you're a
I see a
super
cat.
fan.
I see a cat and it's slightly. I don't see the whole thing. I don't know.
It's
Looks
a
like some
how
crappy shirt. Just kidding.
it's a Beth's Furry Friends Howard Stern original painting on a t-shirt. That's
Oh
Helen Rose.
wow.
This is Helen Rose.
Oh, that's a very nice. That's a very nice shirt. Well, it would help if you show the whole thing. All I
Well,
see is the top head of a cat. Like you get. There we go. See now that makes more sense to me as an artist. The full picture does the
sorry.
artist justice
I,
as well as the work. Thank you.
sorry, I didn't stand up while I'm doing
He
my
didn't
fake
stand up. It was a
internet
tip.
radio show.
I promise the next time it'll be a better display of visual artifacts on an audio podcast. But tell us about the purpose of the shirt.
Oh, it just raises money for Beth's Furry Friends. 35
Okay.
bucks. 35 bucks is what I would pay for a charity t-shirt. I would never pay
Yeah.
$35 for a t-shirt that was, the money didn't go to charity. You understand what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah,
But
that's $35 you could feel good about. I mean, I did a lot of fundraising over the years for a variety of causes, as you know. And if it's something that you could wear, you don't feel like you get drawn over the coals for it. Like it's not
right.
Jackie's tchotchkes.
I wear it on
It's
the
an actual
show.
painting, and you're a fan of the guy. So you feel, it's cool. You don't mind representing. So
Exactly.
I
And
dig
where
it.
else? You can't get a Howard Stern painting. You cannot buy a Howard Stern painting. But you
Right.
can buy a t-shirt with a Howard Stern painting on it
There you go. You
for
can get a replica. You
$35.
can't get the original.
Right. But this was close. So I felt really good about this purchase, and we're all enjoying it.
I think that's pretty cool. I like it. As a lover of cats. You can't see my cats. My shirt is also a cat shirt. This is embarrassing.
I see.
I only
see
just
the paw
noticed
print.
that.
I see the paw print.
Oh, this is so embarrassing.
It's
Go
not
on.
embarrassing.
Ugh.
I
Why
don't care for cats.
coordinating?
Personally, I do not care for cats. I don't have a cat. I don't really want a cat. I will support Beth's Furry Friends though and buy a t-shirt.
And the one negative fan feedback next week will be that this is the exact reason why the Stern Show has become unlistenable.
Cat
We're
talk.
talking about Beth's cats.
Not me. I'm done. I just wanted the shirt. I just wanted the shirt. You sounded like Richard Simmons a little bit right there without laughing.
Gary.
All right. Time. Oh, wait. First of all, my wife, before we get into rando news, my wife is complaining that I'm talking about too much Howard. She said, since we started the show.
What? Where?
Since
On
we
the
started
show?
the show, she says the Howard talk has increased by tenfold. And she doesn't seem to say that in a positive manner. She seems to not like this. And I said,
Did you tell her I told you not to be
10%.
stupid, you moron? Did you?
No, I definitely didn't say that. I said 10%. I mean, 10 times, probably not 10 times, maybe like 5 times. But 10 times seems a little high. So, but stuff is interesting. I want to bring it up, and I'm trying to I'm workshopping for the show. I explained to her, I'm trying to see what
Exactly
catches your interest and what doesn't. Then I can use
We're
that on the
creating
show.
something. It's an artistic expression. We got to actually put the time into it. There's a dime a dozen. There's a reason why we are the world's premier super fan Howard Stern Show podcast. And it's because the effort we put into this, the time we put into this, the expertise.
I think it's because all the other ones hate him. I think that's.
I don't think it has any reason to do with anything. I think it's because there's about 10 people that will watch you on Twitch at any given day.
Right. Exactly. Clearly.
Well, here's the question: are you going outside the parameters of your normal Stern content with Mrs. Cheapy? Because before you said
it's more.
You usually only interesting things.
I'm workshopping, just like you said. Yeah, like I said, I'm workshopping and trying to find out what's interesting. But it's only because I find this stuff interesting. If I didn't, I wouldn't talk about it. I wouldn't talk about it now, and I wouldn't talk about it with Mrs. Cheapy. But exactly. I don't know. I have to listen. I feel like I have to listen more because we're doing this show, so I'm hearing more, so I have more stuff to talk about with her.
Right.
But I also
Right.
don't want to be. I don't feel like I should want to be pressured into listening more just because we're doing this,
Right.
because then that's a good way to turn like a hobby that you enjoy into a job that you don't like.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Nobody. Yeah. You don't want to be a jobber. You don't want to
Like
be a jabroni.
I
There's
feel like,
nothing worse than a jabroni.
don't you, like, if you love comics, I know you love comics, but if you
Yeah.
had to
CERN is
write,
where I had my comic education. It was like a constant like comic, not as a comic myself. I'm
right.
saying in comics, because you'd always have classic, like world class comedians come in, and from the beginning of their careers
Oh,
to like now where they are the world class, and you get to see all these different interviews over the years. And like Stern's a great interviewer. So I always felt like it was like the actor studios, but for comedians, you know?
right. But I meant like comic books.
Oh, I'm just so into the show. I was like, when are we getting into the show already?
Right.
I'm
We can
sorry.
now could be good. I was just gonna say you like comic books, but if you had to write a lot of comic book reviews all the time, all day long, and read comics, maybe that you were tired, you didn't feel like reading that comic, but you
Right.
felt
Yeah.
compelled to, you may not enjoy reading comics as much once it becomes a job. You understand what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
Yeah. Pressure and all that shit. Yeah.
Right.
That's why you gotta keep it fun, man.
Right. Speaking of fun,
You know.
let's get into some rando news.
Rando news.
The big news is that Brent's Twitch channel got banned again. This
Yeah,
is
I mean, like, what do you make me do this shit for? I go through all this effort. Like I like put time into this. What would sound interesting? I got no sound effect machines. And I say rando news. I actually practiced this crap for Brent getting banned for blocked from Twitch.
okay,
What did he
well,
do? Did he have sex like on stream? Or?
I don't know. The show is questionable because it's probably, my guess is it's his wife wearing like a bathing suit in a situation where she's not swimming. Like, you're not allowed to do that on Twitch. Like, if you're wearing, you
Ah,
can't wear swimwear unless you're at the beach or in a hot, if you have a pool in your backyard, that's cool. But you can't just
okay.
be like hanging out on your balcony in a bathing suit, as far as I know. So that's
Right.
my
Okay.
guess. Something like that happened.
Okay. 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 Is it? Wait, can I ask you a question? Is this part of the investigative work that in journalism that you've been doing
No,
regarding Brent's
no.
Twitter following? You might want to put it as an entry. It's a data point at the very least. He was blocked, but let's find out why. It could be related to uh, jiggering the system
There is no,
by robot followers getting
no,
emotes
no. That's not how it
and
works.
gift subs.
You can't do that because it's money. Either somebody paid the money or somebody did not pay the money. And if somebody paid the money, that's the only thing that Twitch cares about. Either
So it's
somebody gave the $5 and got a subscription, or they didn't. You can't fake getting a subscription. You know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying. I know what you're,
Exactly.
so then the mystery is definitely pasties and certainly not emotes.
Yeah, it's probably, they still probably, my guess is that Brent still has probably not bothered to read the actual Twitch policies on what you can wear and what you can do on the channel. He just
But
thinks like,
he doesn't read everything. He just knows. He just knows. He's been in a deposition before on both sides, so he just knows.
he probably has an idea of what he thinks is reasonable and just does that. And just,
Right.
it's like, hey, I can't believe we got banned. Well, I don't know. What's the deal? Got banned again. Don't know why. Not going to find out. Not going to do any research and look to see what the rules are. Just going to be banned and not ever learn why.
The right wing conspiracy never ends. QAnon strikes again.
By the way, just saying, like, if I made my living on Twitch, I would be really careful about that stuff and definitely know what the rules were and make sure I'm not getting banned. Like, this show is just for fun, and like all the shit that I do on Twitch is just for fun. But I know the rules. I'm not making my living on here. He quit. Either quit or got fired. Got fired.
Is that for Brent again?
No. He either quit or got fired, and
Right.
And now is risking his life, literally his one source of livelihood, or maybe the OnlyFans is blowing up. I don't know.
I'd imagine the OnlyFans is probably the more unrestrictive.
Dude, that is like a cop car in your living room.
Testing 1 2. Is this thing probably modulated?
Yes.
It might be recording too much of your home life. Or what is going on outside of that room? I mean, are you like in a drug den? Some type of
You
sex
mean?
trafficking location? It's not me, man. Look at me.
That's
There's
not
a
me.
turtle
That was
behind me.
me.
That's what's.
Was it me?
I mean, I don't.
I think that was
Can't hear
you.
anything.
I don't. The cop cars don't sound like they're in my living room. They don't put those.
Do you,
They don't put the sirens down. I live in a suburban neighborhood. They don't run the sirens like when they're just driving down the street here.
this is the patrol sound. There's
Yeah.
nothing happening. They're just patrolling. I want
Yeah,
to make sure everyone stays
they don't,
inside.
they don't make noise when they're patrolling here. All right.
Only when you double park.
They don't even do that because we have to separate. They just pull over like poor people, basically. They look, if your car is not nice enough, they basically pull you over and give you a ticket for something. I got
Nice.
pulled over too, and my car's pretty nice, but they didn't give me a ticket. I talked my way out of the ticket.
So you said I'm GBD from Twins.
No. They knew from where?
Don't you know who the hell I am? Huh?
No.
The cheap ass gamer.
They knew my house when they looked at my driver's license, and I was like, "Oh yeah, we just bought that house from the original owners," and I knew the owner's name, so I dropped the owner's name.
There you go.
And to show that I'm connected to the town and everything, and even though I was going too fast, I could slow down and just not have to pay anything. All right. Let's talk about. I mean, you want to talk about the Tiger Woods car crash? And
oh yeah,
if that's going to be the big story.
Choices. Give me two options.
About what?
What else besides?
Oh, and Ham Hands Bill's birthday. I don't care about Ham Hand Bill really.
All right, fine, Tiger Woods.
Have you been following the story at all? Because I just watched the Tiger Woods documentary on HBO. It's like a 2-part movie that just came out, and it was really super well done. And the whole point of the documentary is that Tiger makes this big comeback, and he's got like this bright future, even though he was down and out for a little bit. Sort of like Howard Stern making Private Parts and the whole movie's about how he's faithful to his wife throughout everything, and they've survived it all. And then like a few years later, he gets divorced. So I don't know.
Crazy, man. I mean, what is that? Art imitating life, life imitating art. What is that?
Right. So I don't. It's weird. Like I feel really bad for Tiger because it seems horrible, and I don't know what was going on there. Like he that car. Like I didn't really read too many of the details, but I saw the picture of the car, and that was like nowhere close to the road. Like that was yeah.
They said it flipped a number of times, that he, I believe he was wearing a seatbelt, so that's what saved his life. Well, the thing I mean, you know me, I see my little connections and conspiracies in different areas. And the last time he had like a weird big car accident was with the cheating scandal.
Right.
And if you remember that, I think that happened on a Thursday before or something like around the holiday or something, or on a Friday, either on a holiday weekend or on like a Friday afternoon. So and news was slower back then anyway. So there was the fog of war about what happened. We don't know if he was on something. We're investigating.
Right.
We don't know. All the same stuff they're saying now. And then a couple of days later, it turns out, oh my goodness, it was like a movie epic type of situation that led to the crescendo of the crash.
Right.
I don't think it was happening the same way here, but around whether he was drinking or driving too fast, I think they were weirdly foggy about the cause, because how do you not know? Car accidents happen on that road a lot.
Got to be driving too fast for that.
Got to be obviously driving too fast, and it's not that. It's a tragedy. It's very sad, but it is strange when these things happen about somebody who's just recently been spotlit, like Bruce Springsteen, and like the recent charges that were dropped regarding drunk driving or drinking while a DUI.
Yep.
And having the inauguration performance or the commercial, Super Bowl commercial, and then the podcast with Obama. It's weird to see this much of some people's lives. It's just weird.
Right.
You know, it's almost too much if you ask me.
Totally. Tiger. Oh yeah. I mean, this documentary, it's really great. It's really great, but you'd see way too much of his life. All right,
and then you're getting like his mistress commenting on the effects of his accident
on the
for
car
his career.
Accident. Yeah.
Like that is just weird level stuff. Like what?
Well, his wife doesn't want to talk about it. That's for sure.
And what is his mistress? She's a mistress from like more than 10 years ago. What does that mean?
She
weird
loved him.
Stuff.
I mean, you got to watch this thing. I mean, she loved him.
Oh yeah, she was really okay. I'll check it out. You said HBO Max.
HBO. It's just called Tiger.
Okay. I'll check it out.
But it feels so incomplete now without the car accident. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
but anyway, let's get into the shows.
And
This week's shows. Um, I wrote down the themes that I thought were present in this week's shows, and now I will share them with you. My notes on the themes. Ronnie has a serious problem. Okay? It's not, yes, it's funny. It is very funny to hear Ronnie fly off the handle and flip out.
Yeah. I mean, a comedy show.
It's a comedy
Funny
show.
may happen.
But that being said, there's something wrong with a person who cannot identify who not only doesn't understand any idioms, but has like a nervous breakdown over it, to where he lied about, he just used that as an excuse, saying he couldn't handle the questions, he had like some medical problem, or that's an excuse because he just simply didn't know, he's just not informed about these things. Yeah. When you combine that with when they asked him if he could draw a clock, remember that from like last year or 2 years ago?
I don't remember that. How did I remember the mentioning it, but I don't remember the result of the clock drawing, because that was from Hannibal, one of my, I told you last week, one of my favorite TV shows.
Okay.
In terms of testing someone's connection with
really?
reality.
They mentioned that in the show.
Yes.
Okay. So they did that with Ronnie, and like he couldn't do it, and he just like he couldn't even like do it in the like, you know.
It is a test for dementia.
Yeah,
I believe it's one of those tests. Like, can you replicate what you see? Like, what's in your head do you see? What is translated from your eyes in your head?
It makes sense, and clearly there's some disconnect there. Whether he's got like a learning disability, like I was telling Mrs. Cheapy about it, and she's like, "This guy sounds like he's got like a problem. Like it doesn't. Right. It's not funny. It's not fun." It is funny. It's funny. It may not be fun.
A nice thing like this, and you're in a nice place with some nice people. It's just it's not funny. It's not fun.
And you can go to Howard, and you can take this and shove it right up his ass.
And shove it up his ass.
So that's one theme for this week. Ronnie has a serious problem.
We agree on that theme. I'm sorry. We agree on that theme regarding Ronnie.
Okay.
That was my theme as well, because I think Ronnie might be. I think I might take him on as a case study into the effects of extreme lockdown on our senior citizen community. Ronnie has progressed in a certain way, and we have different opportunities at the end of almost every show, except for Wednesday, to see how he handles different stressful situations.
Different stressors.
So please go on. I just wanted to throw that in.
My other main theme for this week's shows is that no one else chooses topics. Only I choose topics. And that's Howard's sort of view on how the show goes these days. If you look at if you look who's getting interviewed and you look at the things that he's talking about, it's really only things that he's passionate about these days. So rock music, classic rock music, guitar icons. Howard, I feel, always wanted to be a rock star and felt like, as great as his life is now, and the great success that he's achieved now in radio, it's being a rock star is just a whole nother level of adulation, right? Like people love Howard Stern, but people worship Eddie Van Halen or people like that.
Right. And they were the equivalent back then. They were the shockers of the music scene, dressing like women and femme and tight jeans and huge hair and loud grating sound, and
right.
I mean, they got that love and adulation, and that's what he's always wanted, some excuse for people to give him more attention than what he felt he deserved.
Yeah, and imagine having like the crowd that a rock star gets is screaming. Like that's what he probably would want at this point. Like if he could snap his fingers and say, "Okay, I'm no longer a radio icon. I'm now like Robert Plant." He would probably choose Robert Plant, I'm thinking. And those are the two themes that I have for this week.
Not Richard Christie.
Living in a warehouse, in a storage unit? No, he doesn't want to.
The man is a serious drummer, though.
I know, but he's not.
That drumming skill. When you hit that double bass, man.
My guess is that Howard sort of doesn't respect Richard because the fact that Richard has this great talent, this great drumming talent, and sort of chooses just to like put it in the basement while he works for Howard. Like, because Howard wishes he had that type of natural musical talent.
Hmm. Hmm.
And
Hmm.
he probably feels like in a way that Richard is squandering it.
Well,
Maybe.
potentially, I don't know. I don't know. I think he I think he might have a lack of respect for Richard for other reasons, like
Because he doesn't brush his
licking
teeth.
Sal's balls
Right.
or painting and manipulating Sal's penis
Right.
for money,
Right. He has no respect.
or not cleaning his bathroom during lockdown, and
Right.
it literally looking like a scene from some type of Survivor horror series from
I missed that video,
PlayStation.
but I heard them talking about it. It sounded
It's
bad.
disgusting. It looks like some type of abandoned home bathroom
Right.
that
So
wasn't cleaned before they evacuated.
I don't know if you have any themes because I know you can't read the outline because of your technological difficulties, but
Well,
I will
listen, I
ask.
get what I'd say is the definitely the Ronnie thing, because as we search for a place for Ronnie to fit into the show in a regular way, a more comfortable fit, the bits where he has to read just come off very, very canned. Sometimes Howard can make money off of that and turn it into another hour and a half bit of laughing at Ronnie reading something. But that I'd imagine is semi-heavy lifting because it's the same thing again. So how do you make it funny again? And Ronnie may not react this time, you know. So that hasn't been always a hit, and he stumbled into gold with apples. So one theme is Ronnie as just a case study of lockdown on someone who was volatile before, and watching him slowly devolve into a peak Sal Governale or peak Benji getting late or peak Scott, you better pay up, push up saga. Okay.
Right.
Like I love watching the pressure cooker go. I mean, obviously, I think that they have enough history that they're not going to push the guy over the edge. So I'm not worried about that. Like it's Dr. Drew's show. We're just watching some guy strung out. I don't think it's like that. But
Plus, he's at home,
Ronnie
so it's
is an
such an
interesting,
easy escape now. Like since they're not in the studio,
right.
like you say, there is no more pressure cooker because the pressure cooker was the studio, and usually like they're trapped there. I mean, they're trapped in the office together, but now that's gone, and that's
No,
definitely
but dude,
affected the show.
but the pressure cooker now is the home in
Right,
lockdown
I
and
correct. It's a
distancing.
different style.
It's but it's different style, but it's actually also on. It doesn't get turned off.
Right, good
So
point.
watching those responses. So like on Monday, what was his deal on Monday? He came on with, was it with Benji on Monday or Tuesday? Monday was with Benji, right? Tuesday was with Apples again, I believe.
Monday was apples, and Wednesday was apples, I think, and so was Tuesday. Yes, Tuesday, correct. Tuesday was Benji, and
Tuesday was
Wednesday.
Benji. Monday was Apples. Monday, I think his problem with Apples calling in is that Apples is a caller, not a cast member. He's been a team player with regards to the cast he got on Lisa G. We may disagree or agree as to the level that we think he should go to. He didn't come through on the Ralph sexuality and voting thing. However, the argument can be made. Ralph is not staff. He is a caller. So my rule
No,
kind
but
of
he's
follows
part of the inner.
through.
Ralph is part of the inner circle, and Ronnie has like this ego thing where no
Right,
matter what, he's part of the inner circle, and anybody who calls in or
right.
anybody who's not part of the inner circle is beneath him, and he certainly does not want anybody to get airtime at his own expense.
But
So
yes,
that's the biggest pet peeve of
but
his.
that's only one circle. The other circle is people who aren't on the show. And if you listen to what he said, he yelled a number of times that you're not on the show when he went to Apples.
Right.
That's his pet peeve. He doesn't want someone to climb off of him
I
like
know.
Sal did with Gary to get onto the show. I think that's
Sure.
his big trigger, I think, personally.
Meanwhile,
And then
it's a ridiculous argument because he's on the show. The
yes, he's
caller is
on the
part of
show.
the show. The callers are part of the show. They're not getting a paycheck, but they're on the show, literally on the show.
Yeah, but I can see what he's saying, like in terms of, hey, I have equity here, whereas this person doesn't. They've got sweat equity,
Yeah,
but
but
they're not on the
but
show.
what is that? It has nothing to do with anything. It's just like
We're not talking about
squatters'
logical.
rights. It's like squatters' rights. Like it doesn't apply here. You're on a radio show, and you get airtime, and okay, so you're getting a paycheck because you have a limo and you drive people around. But this guy is also on the air making content. He's just not getting paid for it. He's a caller. It's how radio works. I mean, he's he's lost it basically.
Don't be hyped. Listen, the man has a car hood on his wall. All right. I mean, we gotta expect him to
Style.
behave within certain parameters.
That is style. That is style.
The other piece, not so much a theme. Well, I guess good caller is a bad caller. Call analysis for people who are looking to be callers out there is a theme. And I want to say, whether you like apples or hate them, or Bobo, both are good examples of calls. Apples, the result, they say the proof of the pudding is in the eating. And the result is Apple's got on a number of days in a row for a long period of time. Now, on his calls, he is annoying. He asks for permission. Big no. Don't ask for permission. Just talk, okay?
Right. Well, I understand what he's sensitive about. He only asks for permission. Well, usually asks for permission when he was about to talk about his business, because he doesn't want. He's being respectful and saying like, "Hey, before I get a plug, before you're basically giving me a free fucking plug, I might want to ask first." I understand that, but he also does say, "May I?" Like.
He takes it too slow. It's just the rhythm. Yes. You have to take some gambles when you're doing it by Zoom or distance. Every once in a while, I got to hope that you actually stop talking at some point when I start talking and hope that I'm not on top of you. I often screw up.
Oh, good.
But Apples gives a little bit too much pause, but he gets by because he is 3 words and then shut up. And then Howard makes gold out of it. You got to let Howard do it. It's his show. You're calling in to add spice. Let him regulate. He's the chef. Okay. Bobo. I know you're not a big Bobo fan. A lot of us out there are not big Bobo fans. However, on Tuesday's call, because I think he closed out Wednesday's show with Tom Morello, Tuesday's call, Bobo calls in at the end, following the riling up of Ronnie with Apples, and Bobo does exactly what he accuses Apples of doing. He literally calls in about faux drama, acting as if he gives a crap just to get off, just to get airtime.
Right.
That screws up. But his next question keeps him on. And Howard's talking about it, and they ask Ronnie, and they go back and forth, and this, and then Bobo talks about his medical procedure, which is, again, a fail. But he says his line. It's written down, and he does this shit most of the time, but he says the line, and then he shuts up and lets the chef regulate how he wants to use his spice. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. If you want to be a super caller, a super fan, super caller, follow us at Proper Pod on Twitter, and we'll help you out. We'll regulate your modulation.
The callers are bad. That is an ongoing theme too. It's like there are a lot of bad callers who just can't. They can't get it out. They're awkward, and even they're trying to trick Howard or like criticize Howard. They don't do a good job of that. Even like they're not skilled. Anyway. Let's talk about the content of the week's shows, starting with Monday. Howard starts off the show talking about his hero, Rush Limbaugh, dying. No, not his hero.
Shmega dildos. Rush Limbaugh.
It was a little, I felt like the Rush Limbaugh segment was a little more respectful than the Larry King segment. I'm not sure. It could be about the same. It's up for debate, though, for sure.
I'd say there was less fundamental respect for Rush in the room than there was for Larry in the room. There was at least a fundamental higher level of respect of Larry as the accomplishments and the damaged individual that he was.
They liked him as a person.
Rush. More. I don't know if they liked him.
Enough. They liked him enough. But Rush, they didn't like at all. Robin wouldn't say any kind word about him. Howard would struggled to at least say well, he had an audience, and I can tell you that's very hard to build an audience like that.
Right, exactly.
That's about the as far as they were willing to go to compliment Rush.
What kind thing can you say about a hateful man? That I just said my kind thing about it. Okay, what kind thing can you say about a hateful man who went out hating?
Yeah,
on his way out, he went out hating.
Not much. That he was good at generating hate and attracting people.
And diverse audience. My brother was the person who my other brother introduced me to Rush Limbaugh. Talk about polar opposites. My one brother introduces me to Howard Stern, and actually was an extra on the Private Parts film, but it got cut. Yeah, but I remember when he had the huge fro for the film. And my other brother introduces me to Rush Limbaugh, the hate monger.
Right.
Go figure.
That is weird. So, I felt like Howard did respect Rush a little bit, at least in the fact that he was able to generate an audience, even
Yeah,
though he felt like they weren't completely on the same level because Rush did not do mornings, and Howard like was
right.
very adamant about saying if you don't do mornings, you're not in the shit. Basically, you're
It's a
just
much more competitive market,
yeah.
man.
But
It's so
meanwhile,
much easier to switch the dial. There's nothing. I mean, there's a lot other alternatives.
it didn't seem to slow Rush down much. But anyway, so that was
But you know what it was? He
what.
got distribution on the army bases. That's where my brother discovered him. He was in the military for a while, and that was one of the few stations that were as easily attainable around the planet,
Right. Makes
for him
sense.
at least.
Captive audience, like pretty much. Howard had a guest on Monday, and that guest was Drew Barrymore.
Yes. Did you listen to that one?
I did. I actually was like, I'm not obsessed with Drew Barrymore, but I remember when I
Ooh.
was like 16 or 17. I remember I had got like a summer job in an office. My friend's father's law firm had us doing like data entry, and they had a People magazine there that I found, and it was Drew Barrymore on the cover, and she was like 13 or 14 at the time, and the whole article was about what a mess she was, like how she's already done she was only like 13 or 14, but she's already like an alcoholic, she's already addicted, she's
Wow,
done every
jeez.
drug, she's like a huge party girl, and they had all these pictures of her like partying and stuff. And I remember thinking, like, as a 16-year-old, like, wow, she's like significantly, she's a few years younger than me, but she's already lived like so much more than I have.
Right.
And I remember reading that article like three times during that summer. So unfortunately, the interview didn't really touch on any of that stuff.
No.
It was mostly about what she's doing now and how she's got a talk show. So I didn't really particularly gain much out of it.
Hmm.
But I can't say that I'm not interested in Drew Barrymore because I clearly remember that copy of People magazine and that
Right.
article. Like that is forever in my brain.
Right. Yeah. I was that was a part of the day where I was quote unquote working and doing my research for the show, and doing my day job and grinding for XP on Genshin Impact, so I could play with my goddaughter because I need to get to level 16.
You sounds like
Um,
you weren't too interested. Not
not too
big.
much, but I did find I like the recurring theme of the childhood performers and the stresses it puts on them, the lack of childhood that a lot of them experience, what happens to them later on in life. And
Right.
she's an example of somebody who was seemed to be able to tear free. I was listening to Gary. Oh man, what's his name? The little person, the
Which one?
Gary not Oldman, not Gary, the actor, child actor. Anyways, from back in the
Gary
'90s.
Coleman.
Coleman,
What you
thank
talking
you.
about? You forgot my name?
Right? And I was listening to him and how he had to emancipate, and I was listening to Corey Feldman. So it was kind of on in that vein. It was interesting to me because she's an example of a child performer who
They
didn't
didn't
have a
talk about it
childhood.
much. They didn't talk
They
about
didn't
it.
talk about it much, but it's still something to watch to see her talking about the way she talks about fame. And she doesn't like to think of herself as a famous person. She wants to think of herself as what high visibility, what she said. She described it in a way that was similar.
Right. I forgot she had some.
Now, to a way, it sounded like conscious uncoupling, so it sounded like bullshit talk.
Could
But
be.
in a way, I like the idea that she doesn't like referring to herself as famous. Just the internal dialogue of what that means to her. I thought that was
She's thought
someone
about
who's
it.
better rounded than our other examples for child actors.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
anyway,
yeah.
I thought it was interesting from that
It
angle.
sounds like she's self-aware, at least, or at least trying to be.
Yes, trying to be, or at least the producer on her show told her, "Now you just be self-aware, okay?"
Right, right. Later in the show, they brought up Larry King's will and the fact that Larry King apparently had like a handwritten will that he just like scribbled together, and they're fighting over
Right,
his estate, and also that his estate was only worth like $2 million, and for a
right. Isn't that
guy
crazy?
who has been in the entertainment business for like 70 years, figured like he
Exactly.
have some more like a house, some houses or something. Like I don't know, but he's been divorced 8 times.
I mean,
That's a lot. Think about getting everything divided in half 8 times.
but
So
well, think, how do you not get a prenup after number three? Come
He's a
on, do you think that's
romantic.
really? We're gonna blame the women. We're gonna blame the
I'm
women.
not
How
blaming
about?
anybody. I'm blaming Larry. Or he didn't care. Who said? I mean, what do you think he cares that he only had $2 million when he's dead? Like he doesn't care. It's not
I
affecting him
don't
at all.
know. He did have a crazy life, man. He started from what his in his autobiography, whatever is believable from it, because Howard and Robin went through and said that there were a lot of like claimed and made up stories that he just made
He
up, and
bought
he couldn't
stories.
even
Oh, right, he
remember.
bought stories, right?
Yeah. So if you want to think of him as like a My Pillow type of, starting out as a con man, or not necessarily con man, but quick with his words kind of guy, natural sales ability, he's made it a long way. And I'd imagine that he would like to have something to show for it towards the end. I don't know. He also lost his son a good 9 months or so, or a year or so before he passed
Oh,
away. So that's
yikes.
just a strange
That's bad
turn of
timing.
events. And then to find that it was only a written will, that's I mean, people, you got to get your wills together. I mean, you can't have, especially if you got that much dough. 2 million's a lot of money. It's more money than I got. And I definitely I don't want the government getting half. You know what I mean? Because they can't make out my handwriting or something and
Right.
it's
It was too
contested.
confusing. It was too confusing. And I'm sure he's got 8 wives and shit. Like, forget about it. So it
That's
sounds like a nightmare.
crazy.
So they were pretty
But that's
shocked.
why you do a will, so that the seven earlier ones, it's on writing, they get nothing.
It
So move
makes
on.
sense. It makes a lot of
To the
sense.
left, to the left.
Larry's too romantic. You can't think about these things. Later in the show, Howard told a story which I don't believe he's ever told before. And usually, like at this point, we're hearing stories that we've heard before because we've been listening to Howard for 30 years, and you only have so many stories that you can tell before you start repeating them.
Was it the Stamos? Was it the details behind the Stamos
No.
threesome?
No, this is a story about his one high school regret, or his one big regret in life, or maybe just in high school,
Yes.
where he talked
Yeah.
about how in gym he was constantly tortured by having to run on the track, and the coach made the person who was last run an extra lap. And Howard said that there was this fat kid who he was always last, and even though Howard was a shitty runner, he was better than this kid, so he knew that he wouldn't be last, and he regretted not sticking up for that kid and just coming in last and taking the lap for the kid, which I thought was like a nice sentiment. You think it's bullshit?
Yeah. No, I think it's real. I
You made a
felt that way.
face, I thought.
No, I think I felt that way. He might not have felt it in that time. I think he feels it now.
Sure. You're just a
because he
kid.
still
You're every
talks
man for
about it.
himself, you know.
He's just, he's trying to survive the day and hide from the bullies. And having been a hider at a point in my life, I know what it's like to just not want to be noticed by the bullies.
Wait a minute.
And
Were you that fat kid?
I was never the fat kid.
Oh.
I was always as svelte and as thug fresh as you see right now. with my cat hoodie on, but at the same time, I have done that before because I did a lot of track. That was like kind of one of my first bad in soccer, and you do feel bad for the kid who gets made fun of by everybody all the time, and the only leadership because you're outside. There's no other adult. It's just this one dude who's pissed off about life, and I'm sure there's great coaches out there, but sometimes you get the bad ones.
You haven't found them yet.
It makes you feel like better than your situation when you can help somebody who's worse off than you. And I've done that. I've, run with somebody so they didn't have to do the last lap by themselves.
You have? Oh, that's nice. Yeah, that's nice.
Because it's at the end of the day, it's like 6:30. They get back in. There's nobody at the school. I don't know what they do now. Back in the day,
you're talking about the track team, not gym class.
Yeah.
Dude, I was the kid. I was last. Like I could barely. We had to run the mile in gym, and you had to do it in 7.5 minutes. Otherwise, you failed. Which is like, that's like pretty fast. Like I feel.
Yeah. I couldn't. It's a good speed.
I could not do that. There was no way I was doing that. And what they made you do, if you couldn't do it, then the next class you had to try again, and you had to keep doing it until you could do it. Meanwhile, the other kids got to move on and play like dodgeball or something fun. And look, if you can't run the mile in 7.5 minutes on Monday, you're probably not going to be able to do it on Thursday or next Thursday. It's like, okay, 2 months later, 3 months later, maybe.
As a
But
kid, maybe sometimes the
not when you're
fundamentals, you know,
I wasn't coming close. It's not like I'm just missing, 7:35, 7. Like, it's not like
you
that.
were
I'm like,
12 and a half,
nah, 10
13
maybe. I don't
minutes.
know. I had a hard
Then,
time. I had a hard time.
dude, I only got good at running the mile once I was in track. Before I was in track, I couldn't do the mile. I was like 10 minutes. It was just a
Yeah.
colossal mistake. It was torture.
I get it. And I wasn't the last kid, but I was definitely in the group of kids who had to keep doing it week after week. And then eventually they give up. They're like, all right, we have to move on to the next
Right.
thing. And you just like, you lose, you can't do it. Like, you just suck.
Ba ba booey.
And to be honest, the first time that I was able to run a 7.5 minute mile was not last year because of the pandemic, but the year before. I joined Orange Theory, and I
Good for
did it,
you.
and it was like really, to be honest, it was like kind of emotional because like I never even came fucking close.
Feels like a huge accomplishment when you're running and then you're at that point of feeling like you're gonna die, and then you actually push past it and you don't die. You feel
Right,
like
I
you
never
survived
made
for a little
that.
bit. Yeah.
I didn't realize that I could do that when I was younger, but now I realize.
For a man who didn't realize that he could do an under 10-minute mile, TP
Felt
Dizzle.
good, man. It felt good. I wish now I'm out of shape again because of this pandemic, and I'm only going to the Orange Theory like once or twice a week. It's just not. It's not happening. All right. Howard closes out Monday's show with the aforementioned Apples versus Ronnie
Yes,
redo because he reads some
redux.
show feedback, and the show feedback is everybody thinks Ronnie's behaving badly. And Apples comes back on and more, and Ronnie just really starts yelling at him and turns into not Ronald. Well, is Ron? Do you think Ronald is when Ronnie just repeats everything? So you'd be like, "Hey, Ronnie, don't you think it's possible that you're a little bit depressed?" And he says, "Yeah, depressed." Like he'll
Well,
get
so
into that mode. I don't know if that's Ronald or just like he's shut
that's
down.
that's Scores Man, that's Rombo, that's Ricky Man, that's Rickety Man, that's Rombo, and that's Ronald. He always repeats. But if he's in the Rombo mode, he'll be like you just said, say, like so I say GPD, you're a jerk off.
Yeah,
And
jerk
then
off. That's right. I'm a jerk off. Yeah, yeah, right. And he just
so
completely moved into that zone with Apples.
Ronald will be like, yeah, all right, I'm a jerk off. Yeah. All right. Yeah, whatever. I'm a
No,
jerk off. Okay,
yeah,
I'm a jerk
but
off.
he's too
Because
angry.
Ronald is in security mode, but Rombo has not been in security mode for how long? I don't even
Wow.
remember how to wash myself correctly or shave. Like I'm just trying not to cut myself
Right. Sure,
at
sure.
this point.
So now that Rambo doesn't have that, he's Rambo now that he doesn't have that social outlet, basically.
Yes. He's like Planet Hulk. He's just been the Hulk for too long. He doesn't even know who Banner is anymore.
Right. I have to say, right. I have to say that I'm on Team Apples with this one. I don't know that Apples was really. I'm sure Apples calls in to get on the air. That's why
Of
everybody
course, that's
calls
what you
in.
call. Yeah.
But somehow Ronnie, you can't call in and ask a question about Ronnie. Somehow he doesn't like it. If
He
you
doesn't
get on
want
the
you
air
to.
for too long, he thinks it's too long off of his question. You're on the shit list.
He knows how it works. That's how he got on. He got on with a letter. He got
Yep.
on with a letter, but that was when Howard used to open his own mail. So they stopped that.
All right. That was a long time ago. Let's move on to Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Tuesday started the show with Howard talking about the new Woody Allen documentary that's on HBO
Right.
called.
Dude.
Did you watch it?
No, what's it called?
It's called Allen versus Farrow.
Allen versus Farrell. Dude, silly story.
Yeah.
I grew up part of my childhood on Drew University.
Okay.
That's
Do
where,
University?
yes,
Do.
Drew.
Oh, it's less fun.
That's where what's his son? Was it Sunmi?
Sunyi.
Sunyi?
Yeah.
That's where she went to college.
Oh.
And as a kid, I must have been like 7.
Uh-huh.
So I have no idea what the deal is. I think I had an idea that she and he were famous
Right.
because they would be on the news, but they would drive in on a limo. So you would, as a kid, just playing outside all day, you would know which one was Sun Yi because you'd see the limo, and we would try to chase it down. so we could get a glimpse of her. And I never made it close. I only see the back of her, and she would walk into her dorm.
Right.
I would only, because it was up the top of this gigantic hill, and we're like trying to make it up, like
Running after Soon Yi.
And meanwhile, she think they're stalking me, even the kids now.
Did you do Wood Yi voice when you were stalking her? You were too
I
young.
didn't know
That was
Wood
pre
Yi at
Wood.
the time.
You didn't know about Wood Yi.
Yes, that's pre Wood Yi. I didn't know about Wood Yi at the time. I didn't know how to do the voice.
Stop. Come back. So Howard was celebrating this new movie by having Wood Yi come out of retirement and call in. And I don't know. It's okay. It's hard. It's kind of hard, like in 2021, to have Wood Yi call in.
Why is it hard to have Wood Yi? Wood Yi is gold. It's killer shit.
Because I don't know. I'm married to an Asian woman. It just feels wrong to listen to like Wood Yi say things like "yum yum fried rice." Like I don't know. It just
What's
I
wrong
laugh,
with being
but it
married to
feels
an Asian
wrong.
woman? What's wrong with being married to an Asian woman when you like to eat red snapper?
Exactly. It's hard and it's a tough sell in 2021. Like I tried telling Mrs. Cheapy about it. As to illustrate how Howard was sort of always anti-Woody.
Is this where she told you you're talking about the show too much? Did you
one of
think
many
you put two and
times
two together, genius?
It was definitely one of many times where I pushed the limits.
Did you do the Wood Yi voice?
Yes. No, I didn't. I tried to show her the video. She's like, I've seen this already. Just stop.
You showed video?
I tried. Well, the old classic Wood Yi. When she had they had Bai Ling. Remember Bai Ling was a guest?
Oh man, Howard almost
and Wood Yi was in
when Bai Ling came in.
Wood Yi was the first appearance, and
Right.
Wood Yi was in the studio to basically greet her, and she's like, "Yum yum, I love egg roll." Anyway, it's
Wood Yi is like, I didn't know this was gonna be a shoot of Asian Street me.
right. Basically, yeah, it wasn't that great.
Hello.
This time around.
My name is Wood Yi. Can you introduce me to your daughter?
Yeah, that's good. Hey, that's pretty good. You practice that. You'll totally be on point.
Oh, it's funny because it's true.
Yes. Then there was a little more political talk, which everybody's cracking himself off. He's thinking about Wood Yi. Everybody's kind of.
Isn't he like a sound engineer? I think.
I don't think he's still working there. That was back in the K-Rock days. I don't know.
But I'm saying there was a time when we didn't get our Wood Yi because he was unionized or something, and he couldn't during some weird transition. Anyway, go on. What were you saying? You said something that I'm sure was just as interesting as Wood Yi. I'm sure.
No, well, Howard is talking about politics again. Maybe if you find that interesting.
Thank goodness.
He had a fake Mitch McConnell call in I believe it's the first time they had a fake Mitch McConnell.
Right.
I'm not sure. It was okay. I gotta be honest. I enjoy like a political discussion as much as the next guy, but I don't know that I'm looking for it on Howard's show. And to be honest, I find like their Trump impersonator does a very good job, and he's funny. He is funny. He's
hilarious. Yeah.
He's talented. But the reality is, like, I'm sick of Trump, and I just like if I could go a couple months without hearing a Trump impression again.
I have to agree with you on that. The tough part is Trump don't want to leave us alone.
He does.
He's like giving speeches.
Not
so
to
it's
me.
Still in the news.
No, it's not. He's not on social media. He's giving some.
He's because he's banned, but the leadership just talked about how they would vote for him again, and he's giving a speech at like this big Republican convention.
I get it.
If you're going to talk, I mean, I would love to not talk about, whoever the interview was earlier. What happened?
Barrymore.
I got to talk about you. I got to talk about it. And how are you going to handle the guy? He's like a zombie. He just won't stay down. So how would you handle it?
I'll tell you.
My question.
You don't need it like every week. You don't need to have the guy.
You skip a week, a current event show. You skip a week where the former president didn't spend at least 3 months being quiet. He literally waited 1.5 months.
They're not talking about anything substantive. They're talking about. They're just making jokes. But he's making jokes about how he wants to fuck his daughter.
Right, he's just trying to avoid the substance. You think he's trying to get around your listener fatigue of the same topic? Do you think he's trying to get around that by just going to comedians instead of?
I would just like to see regular comedians come in and talk about something else. Like I understand the guy's a talent. There's a lot of talented people who do a lot of things. We can mix it up. That's all I'm saying.
I'm with you.
That's all I'm
I do
saying.
get tired of talking about Trump too.
But Howard must be into it. Like I said, he's going to talk about what he wants to talk about because it's his show.
Yeah, he pranks. No one else.
Right. And to prove that point, he did a bit on, exactly, he did a bit on Jim Kerr, a radio DJ that probably most people
Right.
do not care about. But Howard is
Right.
into the radio business. That's something that's interesting to him. So guess what? He's talking about it. If you don't like it, that's too bad, I guess, because he's talking about it.
Right. And Jim Kerr has been a recurring, and you move us along if we're running out of time. Jim Kerr has been a recurring theme on the show as well. I think he's had him in studio.
Sure.
He's had him record bits and phone calls, I think. I think they might even prank him at some point. So he's always been, Howard just loves people with good announcing voices. He just loves that and he respects it. And
I think he's had to
loves
work hard.
show it to his audience as signs of good talent.
But do you find that interesting necessarily?
I like it because, yeah, I've always found radio interesting, man. I'm into that stuff. I don't find it. I didn't listen to every single second of it. That's true. Actually, you're right. I leveraged the app and I listened to what I was interested in about it, and I skipped. That's a good point.
Did you listen to the? I think the segment that we probably have the most vested interest in was the segment where a woman called in and she said, Howard, you talk about how you got beat up all the time as a kid, but you never talk about getting beat up because you were Jewish.
Because you're Jewish, right?
And she wanted to know what was going on with that, which prompted Howard to go into something that he's talked about so many times about how he's grown up in a black neighborhood called Roosevelt, Long Island, and how he was beaten up constantly. But he says, much to my fellow students' credit, they never beat me up because I was Jewish. They did not care one lick that I was Jewish. It did not figure into any of the multiple beatings that I received. There was no anti-Semitism going on there whatsoever. It was strictly because I was white. So so he was making the joke that he respected that at least.
Yeah, that was funny. I thought it was funny.
It was. I like to hear about those days, but he did go on to mention how he wound up moving from Roosevelt to he moved to Rockville Center, which is also on Long Island. And that's a white neighborhood. Now, I do believe later when he moved to Rockville Center that he did say that he encountered anti-Semitism there.
Yes.
So I don't know that he got physically beaten up because of it, but I remember him calling that out.
Right. Yeah, I don't remember the particulars, but I do remember him saying, like, he didn't get into huge detail about anti-Jewish violence, anti-Semitic violence over the years. It was more just because he was different. But he did mention a few times people went out of their way to say, hey, I just want you to know I hate you because you're Jewish. That's the difference I hate.
Yeah, he said that basically people hated him. The white people hated him just as much as the black people. It was just a little different. The situation was a little different. It was just a bad situation in both places. Meanwhile, Rockville Center, great fried clam place called Bigelow's. If you're ever in the area, check out Bigelow's. Amy Schumer, friend of the show, actually talked about it in her book.
Oh wow! Okay, when
I knew about
when Mad Max Part 3 ends, I'll check it out.
Yes.
Yeah.
He did. After that, Benji makes a rare appearance. I'm a big Benji fan. I like to hear.
Me too.
There's no such thing as Benji Vortex as far as I'm concerned.
I feel like you got to modulate that vortex, man. The kid gets out of hand sometimes.
Howard does a good job with it. I never feel like it goes on for too long.
Vortex alert. Vortex alert.
It's going off. I never feel that it's too much Benji. That's all I'm saying. I'm saying Howard's got a good handle on it, and they started talking about Benji dating on his app.
Dating Drew Barrymore.
Well, right, because Drew Barrymore said she's on one of those celebrity apps. I believe
some dating app.
It's probably that one.
Go ahead.
There's one for celebrities called like Raya or something like that. It's probably that one.
That's not going to get hacked at all. Hey, dude, have you ever used a dating app? Do you predate dating apps?
I predate dating apps. I met my wife on Yahoo Personals, it was called Yahoo Personals.
Okay, so it's similar.
But it turns out I had actually met her before. I re-met her
Right,
on Yahoo Personals. That's another story for another
that's
time,
another story. Well,
for a
I just
different
always
show.
wonder, like, how do you do the? Because I luckily I like slid in right before that was a thing
So,
to do the dating
oh,
apps.
okay, yeah.
So I don't really know the experience, but I thought I always wonder, like, how does that work?
I
But the
don't
thing I
know.
also, because
That's why I
Benji,
like
I mean,
hearing Benji talk about it.
yeah, well, Benji's original dating app was like either Reddit or the dark web, you know. So
No, it
Benji
was
will do like
Craigslist. It was
Craig's.
Craigslist,
That's
which
what
is worse probably than those things.
It's also another topic, but
Right.
I thought it was nice that they were trying to give Benji, hey, like give him an angle. Let's get a campaign going, get Benji to date any kind of celeb. But
It's not going
I
to
think
happen.
that shtick is sailed, if you will.
With Anna Nicole.
Uh,
Anna Nicole was the last one, I
yeah,
think.
and that was where they should end it at. That was a classic. That was, to me, that was the pinnacle of showing the world that they are reality television. They had the biggest reality TV star do something that her network would never let her do on their show because they asked. You know what I'm saying? And
Yep,
that was
yep.
awesome.
Did Benji bang Drew Barrymore's mom? Remember Jade Barrymore?
I don't think Benji banged Jay Barrymore. I don't.
Didn't he hook up with her? Somebody hooked up with her from the show, I think.
I didn't know that. You wait, whoa, whoa,
I feel
whoa.
like that's something that happened. Jade
Guys.
Barrymore,
Some of the super
Benji.
fans, if anybody's listening, let us know in the chat if you have any idea about this latest conspiracy from the
I
chief
thought I heard that.
Bizzle.
Benji
Because
Bronk.
well, because I'm not aware of this, but they did make reference to Benji. They said he slept with some celebrities'
I think
father
that's
or
what they were
mother.
talking about. That's what they were talking about.
Why would they? You think so?
It's a sort of, I don't know. I feel like that's what happened, but I'm not sure. That might put a like a wrinkle into Benji's plans to date Drew.
Yeah. And
Maybe I
if he
made that
old
up.
enough, Benji ain't that old. Drew Barrymore's like his like older
But
than him, isn't she?
I don't. But Jade used to come on the show
I don't remember those.
back in
Was
the
it a Channel
day.
9?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So we'll have to find the Jade Channel 9 UPN 9 episodes.
That could be fake news about Benji and Jade Barrymore, but I feel like something they were alluding to something like that.
Tweet Benj and ask him, see if DM him and see if he responds.
Right. And then the show wraps up with Ronnie's the bit about Ronnie knowing the meaning of idioms and Ronnie having this brain freeze that caused him to sleep for 14 hours and had to visit his psychotherapist and get analyzed.
Seriously. I mean,
Um,
that's why Ronnie is an interesting case study, my friend. He's
right.
changing in front of our eyes.
Because if I ask you questions that you don't know, you either make up an answer or you tell me you don't know. You don't say, my head's going crazy right now. I have to go and then just leave.
Well, so hey, okay. So without nerding out too much, there is a phenomenon that occurs when people are taking a test
Mm-hmm.
from like these type of sociology tests or answer response. You
Okay.
put yourself in a mode where you must deliver, and you get stuck in that mode. And if it's been going on for half an hour and it's a bit for the show, you're in production mode, you're kind of acting in a way, performing. I could see him thinking, I can't tell the guy I don't know. I got to give an answer for the show. We need something to use. But I think the part of him feeling physical pain and having the physical result of needing to sleep is something more indicative of something else going on with his body and his mind's relationship. So that's what I'm looking at, because how do you get fatigued out about, okay, so maybe you're fatigued out because sometimes when you do certain lines over and over,
Do.
normal words seem weird. Do, whatever do,
Yeah. Sorry.
at the same time, like, I mean, honestly, that is something to pay attention to. He can't tell you
It was
jump and
scary.
how high. What does that mean?
It was scared. I was listening to it and I was scared for Ronnie. I felt that this is not a good situation. I thought it was
It's not.
funny, and then I was like, this is not actually funny. This is
And the
scary.
hair and the hair trigger in terms of his anger is another sign of, because oftentimes it masks them feeling confused or disoriented when they don't know the answer to a question. So their response is out of a little bit of impatience. So
Right.
I don't know. I'm watching you, Rombo.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah. I
watching.
hope everything works out there. And a caller had called in actually and made the point. I think it was actually last week. I'm not
Mhm.
100% sure, but made the point that Ronnie must be going through a lot of stress right now because he's moving. And not just
And
Ronnie,
the lockdown too.
there's a
It's
lockdown,
killing him.
but just everybody knows that moving is one of the most stressful things that anybody can do. And
Yeah, next to
imagine
public
moving
speaking
cross.
and death.
Yeah, it's just right. It's on that list. So
Yeah.
imagine you're 70 years old and you're not just moving, you're moving from one coast to the other. So like my
Yeah.
parents just moved house from a house to a condo, and I'm sure it was incredibly stressful for them. But the reality
Right.
is, it was like half an hour away, and they drove. It wasn't like they had to relearn like a whole new area. Like there's a
Right.
lot going on when you move to another part of the country and you're 70. It's a
Yeah.
lot, even if you were young. But for him, it's got to be overwhelming. So the caller called in, said Ronnie must be going through this incredible amount of stress right now. And certainly that's going to manifest itself in other ways, such as short temper, lashing out at people, when the reality is you're
Yeah.
just stressed about a move. And Ronnie was like, yeah, stressed. Like completely denied it. Like there was no way that any part of that could even be remotely true. When anybody who's listened to the Howard Stern show, we've all learned a little psychotherapy listening to Howard over the years. They can see that this is definitely something that could be happening to Ronnie. It's not, it ain't helping anything. That's for sure.
It ain't helping anything. I think honestly, it's happening in a lot of households in a real way right now. But the other thing that stood out to me why I'm like down this road is Ronnie. At the end of that conversation, they said Ronnie is not playing with a full deck of cards. Ronnie, do you know what that means? And he's like, yeah, exactly, exactly. Not a full deck of cards. Exactly, exactly. There's definitely a joker and a couple of aces missing. Okay, yeah, definitely not a full deck of cards. So that there's truth in every joke.
Yeah.
He said there's jokers and aces missing. Sounds like to me he's saying that I'm getting thinner skinned and I'm not as sharp as I used to be.
You think Ronnie's using metaphors? Is that what you're
I
saying?
think that's why he did. Because one, he didn't answer the question directly. Because I don't think he knows how to. He didn't know how to answer directly. He didn't know how to form the words that way, as if it's like a dyslexia, if you will, right? And then two, he knew the answer and he answered figuratively, which is what's easier for him, maybe. I don't know.
Right.
But he also told a little bit of truth, I think. I think
Could
he
be.
feels like he's lost a step. Because you notice these things, it's not just on the air. That's high stress.
His
But in
voice
normal life,
too. His
his voice
voice
gets a little
physically has
quavery.
changed. Yeah. It's
Exactly. He knows
quivering.
what's going on. That's why he always talks about like his numbers, years are going, the numbers running out, and like, what's he gonna do? And
Yeah.
what are you gonna do?
Right.
We love you, Rombo. I mean,
Yeah.
we love it that you're out of control and a maniac.
But
Let's fuck some whores.
nobody mentioned
Fuck
Lucky
all this
Charms.
wives shit. Eat the Lucky Charms, the magically delicious. What else is in the news?
Let's move on to Wednesday's show.
You know,
The Wednesday show focused on. I mean, the key takeaway, the key part of the Wednesday show was Tom Morello, and Howard hyped up the interview the whole week.
right? Yeah.
I know that, like,
Serious
personally,
ad spot.
what's that?
Sorry, serious ad spot. Sorry about that.
Right, Tom. He has his own channel or something. I sort of tuned that part out.
It's fine. It was good though.
I did find the interview pretty interesting.
Yeah.
I the part that I found most interesting was when he talked about how he became a guitar player, how he started so late, started in high school, like he was 17, just decided he was going to be a
Right.
guitar player, walked into drama club, said, I'm starting a punk band, no experience necessary. Who's
I
coming
love it.
with me?
I love it.
And then met a guy, said, you got to practice an hour a day. And he's like, all right, I'm practicing an hour a day. And then he said, it was actually, I told the story to my son because I thought it was actually very motivational. I'm going to practice. He
Hmm.
practices an hour a day, sees how much he's improving, practices an hour a day, and only practices an hour, not 58 minutes, not an hour and 2 minutes, 1 hour. Says,
Right.
well, I'm getting good just practicing an hour. What if I practice 2 hours a day or 4 hours a
Right.
day? And then
Right.
just sees the progress explode. So I told my son that. He didn't seem too impressed. But I thought that was really interesting. And also, how he went to Harvard and decided that he was still, even as a Harvard student, he was still going to be a rock guitarist, and made sure that he practiced his 4 hours a day
Right.
while maintaining great grades at Harvard, which cannot be easy at all. I thought
Right. Yeah.
that part was really interesting. Uh, Growing up as where did he grow up exactly? I didn't catch what part of the
I
country he
don't.
grew
I
up
don't
in.
remember. I don't remember. I what
It
stuck
was the
out stood
sticks
out.
somewhere. It sounded like it wasn't like a city.
What stood out to me was that the guy had such a drive that he's going to do whatever it takes to make what he wants to make of himself, and that type of attitude goes a really long way. I think there's a lot of priority put into the idea of inherent talent and the ability just being natural, but
Right.
nurturing anything will allow it to grow, and I think he's a good example. Obviously, he's a really smart person. I mean, that's not to be ignored. He's someone who, like they say, wisdom is being able to know what to do but to apply it at the same time, like when it's necessary, is wisdom. So he's obviously a wise guy,
Yep.
knowing that he should practice more, but he also put in the time, and I think that is, I love when those examples are highlighted from about people that you grew up listening to but you didn't know these backstories.
Yeah.
That's what makes those interviews, like, even knowing that a commercial interview in my head, because they're promoting a channel. I know every interview is a promo, I know that, but I
Sure.
know it's an internal commercial.
Nobody's there for their health. They're there to promote whatever project they have
Exactly.
coming on.
Except for Jeff the Drunk. No, wait, no, he's promoting his cameo.
Right. That's something. I mean,
But at the same time, when you get those kind of little gems out of an interview, I don't know. I mean, I love the music, but I don't know that I was like, wasn't dying for a Tom Morello sit down 2 hours. He got such a large block for a reason, and that's because he's an interesting guy, and there was a lot to pull out of there.
right. I thought that Howard cut him off a little too much during the interview because
Okay.
and it's hard. I realize everything's remote now. It's very difficult. It's much more difficult than doing it live in the studio. But
Right.
like you said, he's really, I mean, he went to Harvard. He's a really smart guy.
Right.
He managed to graduate with great grades from Harvard and practice, could become a rock god practicing in Harvard, which is crazy. You're paying all this. I mean, he had a scholarship, probably, whatever. There's
Right.
like, you're at Harvard to like do Harvard things, and he could have done that anywhere. And he said he would have done it anywhere. And it was great just to see, like, he basically willed himself to be a rock star. That's what he
Yeah.
wanted to be, and he's like, if it takes 4 hours a day of practicing, I'll just do it. If I have to do it at Harvard, then I'll do it at Harvard. If I have to do it at Nassau Community College, I'll do it there.
Yeah, man. You know me, I'm all about music and music education. I think that's the way to go. I think he's a great example. Very interesting, really interesting interview. So interesting, we didn't get our Rambo or Bobo time.
Right, right. And I will say, like, a lot of times the musicians they don't really have that much to say, but he was an exception. But Howard does I'd say, generally speaking, more often than not, Howard's interviews with the musicians, even the ones that I think I'm not interested in at all, are very good. And sometimes I actually become fans of the people and listen to their music.
That for me too. But I laugh because the musicians, they got a lot of interesting to say, but they just don't know how to talk, and they don't talk. Like, I just was watching Ace Frehley with Chuck Zito when they came in, and Ace left her. I don't know if you remember, this is like a while ago. Sal came in with no shirt on and like a tin foil,
yes.
like
And then he stole his phone number out of the file.
Right. He didn't ask for it directly. He just said, Jason, if it's not too big of a problem, would you mind giving me his number? I didn't say look for the number. I said, if it's not a problem. But anyway, Ace Frehley was like talking to a stone. Now, there's a lot of great stuff in there, but the guy's not responding.
Same with Machine Gun Kelly. I don't know if you caught that one.
I didn't listen to
Kelly was so low energy. He was like, must have been very hungover. He was just like, he had some interesting things to say, and it sounded like he had a really interesting life, but low energy. Also, I mean, Howard closed out the show with the Tom Morello interview, but the other notable part of the show for me was Howard brought back his Kennedy's impression, his various Kennedys.
Era.
Somehow they were talking about was it Rose Kennedy, right? Who had
Era. I think we were talking about my sister Rose Kennedy.
yes,
Era.
she had a they gave her a
They cut out
lobotomy.
her brain. Yes, she was too sexual. They cut her brain out. Yeah. Era.
Did you hear that, or is that just from like 20 years ago?
No, I heard it.
It's the same. It's the same routine from 20 years ago. I heard that routine 20 years ago. I mean, it's funny, and I I laughed again, but it is the same. It's pretty much the same routine from 20 years ago.
Era. We didn't talk about the girl I drowned in Chappaquiddick.
I thought that, to be honest, like I really thought that Howard made a great point about it was a joke, but he's like, we can't let our
couldn't swim.
Right. The men are allowed to go around and do whatever perverted things they want, including drowning their girlfriend, their one night stands.
I drowned the bitch.
That's okay, but we have a mentally disabled person in our family who, once in a while they touch themselves inappropriately. Instead of buying them a vibrator and closing the door, we're gonna cut her brain out. But the men will just continue to go around and cheat on their wives
and close the door.
Right. Yeah. It's just like, and the hypocrisy is unbelievable. And I thought that was really cool that Howard brought that out, and funny and fun.
Yeah, it was great. It was great. I mean, you got a great example of Wendy, slow adult, calling over the decades. Look what happened to Wendy. Okay, so she has health problems. She probably could have been on a better diet, but she didn't kill anybody. She didn't drown anybody.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So like it is. I'm glad that because they didn't really talk about that much back in the day. They focused on Chappaquiddick, especially when he was a sitting. Was he a senator or a congressman?
He was a senator at the time.
Senator, right?
So the point, the crazy thing is, like, the Kennedy family worried about their mentally challenged, mentally disabled family member who's not in the public eye at all.
Speak for yourself. I was worried about Marilyn Monroe.
Right. They don't worry about curtailing any of that.
Get over here, John. Right? John, it's your turn.
That's fine. Don't curtail any of those activities. But yeah, what if our disabled family member?
Don't call me Mr. President. Call me Senator.
That's the embarrassing part. Our disabled family member. We have to lock her up behind closed doors and give her a lobotomy.
I know. How could you laugh at this stuff, Cheapy? You're a pretty messed up individual.
Era. I have no answer. Era.
I told you not to be stupid, you moron.
Yes. All right. Well, I think we're at the end of our show for this week.
No.
I'll remind people to follow us on Twitter at ProperModPod.
ProperModPod.
If you're listening to the audio version of this, you can follow us on, you can watch us live on Twitch, twitch.tv/cheapassgamer, and we do this Fridays at 3:00 Eastern time. I think in the future, there have been requests from various people on Facebook and elsewhere. We have a Facebook page as well, by the way, Proper Modulation, just type that in. There have been requests to take phone calls from people.
Oh, right. Yeah, I saw that.
So that they can talk about that. I think it's something that would be good to do on off weeks when the show is dark, for a portion of the show. I don't know. I mean, we don't get a lot of people watching the show live, so it might be difficult to procure a lot of content from that. We may need Sal and Richard to call in and prank us. But
I just listened to Chinese Confusion again. Oh man,
that's a great one.
Killer shit.
But if you're listening to the audio version, there's definitely more people listening to the standalone audio version. So if you're listening to that and like the idea of calling in and speaking your mind about Howard, then come join us on twitch.tv/cheapassgamer.
Yeah. Join us, man. Check us out. Check us out, y'all. Check us out.
That's it. And I think we'll see you next time.
Peace.